He had been in the room for 4 hours. He had not said a single word, not one. He sat with his eyes closed, hands still, body locked. 4 hours. And then, in the space of 3 seconds, he opened his mouth. What he said explained almost nothing, and somehow made everything worse. Apple Valley, Ohio, November 10th, 2010, a Wednesday. Tina Herrmann did not show up for work. For most people, that is a minor thing. For Tina Herrmann, it was not possible. She was a manager at the local Dairy Queen. She was reliable. She answered her phone. She answered texts. She had 2 children at home, 13-year-old Sarah and 10-year-old Cody. She did not miss work. Her manager, Valerie Hawthorne, knew it immediately. Something was wrong. Valerie. One of my employees didn't show up.
My name is Valerie Hawthorne, and I work at a Dairy Queen. I'm the general manager out there. One of my employees did not show up for work this afternoon at 4 o'clock, which is totally uncharacteristic of her. She's one of my managers. I drove out by her house and went and knocked on the door, left her a note. She's not answering her phone, which is totally uncharacteristic. She's not answering her texts, and she is not at home, but her truck and her coat are in her house. Her truck's there and her coat is in the house. I'm very concerned about her.
What's her name?
Her name is Tina Herrmann, Herrmann.
Okay.
I know that she and her boyfriend are splitting up, and he can be a real jerk with her.
Okay. Do you have a phone number for her?
Oh God, I do, but it's in my phone. I'd have to call you back.
Okay, that's fine. What was your name again?
My name is Valerie Hawthorne.
Okay. Okay, I will have a deputy swing out there and check on her.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime.
All right, bye.
For work this afternoon at 4 o'clock. She's one of my managers. I drove out by her house, knocked on the door. She's not answering her phone, which is totally uncharacteristic. She's always answering her texts. Officers knocked on Tina's door that evening. No answer. They left. They would come back. But by the time they did, everything inside that house would be different. The next morning, Tina's children were not at school. They had been there Wednesday. They were not there Thursday. And then a second name surfaced. Stephanie Sprang, 41 years old. Tina's best friend. Her boyfriend Ron had last spoken to her at 12:45 on Wednesday afternoon. She had not answered since. 2 women, 2 children, all missing, from the same address, on the same day. That is not a coincidence. That is a crime scene. On Thursday afternoon, Valerie Hawthorne had waited long enough. She went back to Tina's house herself. She tried the front door. She went around to the back. She found an unlocked window. She went inside. What she found inside that house ended any remaining possibility that this was a misunderstanding. Valerie. There is blood everywhere. Blood in the bathroom, blood on the carpet, drag marks. The kind of scene that tells you, before a single investigation has been conducted, that whatever happened here, nobody walked away from it whole. Tina's truck was gone from the driveway. Only Stephanie's vehicle remained. 4 people had been inside this house. Now all 4 were gone. And the house was full of blood. Investigators moved fast. The first question in any disappearance is the most obvious one. Who was in Tina's life? Who had access? Who had a reason? The answer surfaced quickly. Tina's boyfriend, Gregory Borders, lived in the house. They had recently separated. He was being interviewed before the crime scene tape was fully up. But Gregory's alibi was solid. He had worked overtime in West Jefferson, Ohio, 90 minutes away, from 6 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. His friend confirmed the rest of the day. Dinner, television, a planned golf game the next morning. Every hour accounted for, every person contacted. Gregory was cleared. And now investigators had a problem. No suspect, no motive. 4 people missing, a house full of blood, and no idea where to look next, until they looked at the floor. Inside Tina Herrmann's home, among the blood and disruption and the debris of a violent night, investigators found something that should not have been there. Walmart shopping bags. Inside them, 2 tarps, a box of heavy-duty trash bags. That is not what you buy when you plan a camping trip. That is what you buy when you need to move something large, something that cannot be moved any other way. The investigators looked closer. There was a receipt. The receipt listed tarps, trash bags, a turkey sandwich, a t-shirt. Purchased just after midnight on Thursday morning from the Walmart in Mount Vernon. Investigators requested the surveillance footage before the sentence was finished. The footage showed a white male, late 20s to late 30s, brown hair, glasses, camouflage shirt. He purchased the items, paid, and left. He walked with the ease of someone who had somewhere to be and nothing to worry about, except he had purchased tarps and trash bags in the middle of the night, and 4 people were missing. Investigators cross-referenced the receipt with the evidence bags found at the scene. The product codes matched. Same store, same transaction, same man. They ran the footage against the Ohio BMV database. They were looking for someone matching the physical description, driving a silver Toyota Yaris. That search returned one name, Matthew J. Hoffman, 30 years old. His address was 0.4 miles from Tina Herrmann's home. But that was not even the most significant detail. Earlier in the investigation, an officer had stopped a man near where Tina's truck had been abandoned. Same hour the vehicle was discovered, same area. The officer had asked him why he was in the area. The man had given an answer. The officer had found nothing suspicious and let him go. That man was Matthew Hoffman. The background on Matthew Hoffman was not reassuring. In 2001, while living in Colorado, he had been convicted of arson, burglary, assault, and motor vehicle theft. A vacation condo, set on fire, evidence destroyed. He had served time. He had been paroled back to Ohio. More recently, a domestic violence report, an ex-girlfriend, a physical altercation. He had recently been fired from his job as a tree trimmer. His supervisor said he made people uncomfortable. That is the phrase, made people uncomfortable. Before anyone knew what was inside his house, that phrase already meant something. After, it would mean something else entirely. On Saturday, November 13th, 3 days after Tina Herrmann missed her shift, a SWAT team approached Matthew Hoffman's home. They did not know if he had the missing people inside. They did not know what they would find. They executed a no-knock entry, forced the door, moved fast. Matthew Hoffman was asleep on the sofa. They moved through the house, and then they stopped. Because the house was not what any of them expected, the living room floor was almost entirely covered in leaves. Not a few leaves tracked in from outside. Not autumn debris from an open window, leaves. Deliberate, accumulated, piled across nearly every surface of the room. Bags of leaves lined the walls of the bathroom. A locked bedroom revealed what appeared to be an inactive marijuana growing operation. A freezer held 2 dead squirrels beside a handful of red popsicles. Investigators were processing this, the strangeness of it, the implications of it, when one of them moved a cabinet in the basement. Behind it, a door. They pushed it open. Sarah Maynard, 13 years old, lying on a sleeping bag, on top of a pile of leaves, her hands and feet bound with yellow rope and duct tape. She looked up at the officer, and she said she was late for school. She asked if they knew anything about her dog. She was in shock. She was alive. She was physically unharmed. And she was the only one of the 4 missing people in that house. The other 3 were not there. Sarah was taken to Knox Community Hospital. She was examined. She was questioned. And despite what she had been through, 4 days of captivity, of fear, of not knowing, she gave investigators everything she could. She described every detail. Matthew had been in the house when she and Cody arrived home from school Wednesday afternoon. He attacked them immediately. She ran to her bedroom. He caught her. He carried her down to the basement. He used rope that was already in the house. He drove her to a parking lot, left her under blankets, came back, moved her to his home. He kept her in a bathroom closet. He moved her to the basement. She said she believed Matthew had killed her mother, her brother Cody, Stephanie, and her dog Tanner. She was not certain. She had not seen it happen, but she believed it. The investigators who heard her testimony believed it too. The question now was whether Matthew Hoffman would tell them where the bodies were. Matthew Hoffman was placed under 24-hour supervision. He was distressed. After a period of observation, he was brought into the interrogation room. He sat down. The detective introduced himself, read Matthew his rights, asked if he understood. Matthew did not respond. He sat with his eyes closed, his body locked, his face still. The detective waited, his partner waited. They let the silence fill the room. 4 hours. No words, no eye contact, nothing. The detectives tried different approaches. They spoke to each other as if Matthew were not present, watching to see if anything they said would prompt a reaction. They asked questions with no expectation of an answer and waited to see if the silence would become uncomfortable enough to break. One detective mentioned Sarah by name. He said she was alive. He said her family was waiting. He said the families of the others were waiting. He said all they wanted was to know. Matthew's hand tightened into a fist, then released. Then he brought both hands together.
Though Matthew remains silent, he finally reacts, but what he does is one of the most bizarre things we have ever seen in an interrogation.
You know, other people, there's family members out there of other people, and all they want is closure. That's all they want. They've been up for days like you and I have, you know? Heart hurts. I don't understand sign language, man.
Been in that room for 4 hours. And then he spoke. Matthew, I knew I must have done something wrong, and I found her in my house. So I took care of her. That was it. That was the opening. Not a confession, not an explanation, not an account of where 3 people were. He said he found her in his house. He said he took care of her. When pressed on what he remembered, what happened where the others were, he said he was trying to piece it together. He said he didn't know. He said he was just figuring it out. The investigators looked at each other. They had one word from 4 hours of silence, and that word had told them almost nothing and everything. While Matthew sat in the interrogation room going quiet again, investigators were working around him. Tina's truck had been found abandoned in a parking lot at Kenyon College. No signs of Tina, no signs of anyone else. The vehicle told them the direction the night had gone, but not where it ended. The bodies were still somewhere, and Matthew Hoffman either could not or would not say where. The interrogation ran across 4 days. Different approaches, different detectives, different tactics. The psychological architecture of those sessions was deliberate. A female interviewer brought in, seated beside him rather than across from him, removing the table as a barrier, building conversation rather than pressure. She talked about loneliness, about feeling purposeless, about what it feels like to be in a place where nothing makes sense. Matthew responded to this, not with confession, but with engagement. He made eye contact. He began to speak in longer sentences. He talked about his past, about feeling alone, about Colorado, about the arson conviction, about the feeling of wanting to do something meaningful and not knowing how. He was building towards something, but he kept stopping before he got there. The investigators offered him an alternative story. They had done it before in other cases. You present the suspect with a version of events that is more forgivable than the truth, and you see if they step into it. Maybe he had not planned to hurt anyone. Maybe he had panicked. Maybe one thing led to another in a way he hadn't anticipated. Maybe if he told them where to look, that would matter. Matthew listened. He nodded in places. And then he began describing a story. A confusing, shifting account involving a food processing plant. Trash bags. Things he claimed to have seen. The detectives listened carefully. They were trying to determine whether this was a genuine memory attempting to surface, or something else. The investigators later took Matthew on a drive, through Knox County, around the areas he had mentioned. He did not reveal anything. He looked out the window. He did not react to anything they passed. They brought him back to the room. Day 4. The detective removed Matthew's handcuffs when he entered the room. A gesture, a message. He brought food, coffee, small comforts from the outside world that a jail cell does not offer. Matthew did not say thank you. He did not appear to register the gesture. He sat. The detective sat closer to him than before, not across the table, beside him. He spoke quietly. He said he had advocated for people he had interviewed before. He said the cooperation was something the people in the system noticed. He said he was not making promises. He said he was telling the truth. Matthew looked up. For the first time since the interrogation began, he made sustained eye contact. The conversation moved into private territory. Matthew said something to the detective, something he did not want the other investigators to hear. The detective kept it between them and used it, not because the information was useful, because giving Matthew the experience of having a secret with someone, of being trusted, of trusting, was the closest thing to leverage they had found in 4 days. Matthew did not confess in that room. Not fully, not in the way that answers every question. What he eventually produced was a written statement, submitted after the interrogation had run its course. In it, he described the morning of November 10th. He had been watching Tina Herrmann's house, not for 1 day, for longer. He had slept in the woods across the street the night before. He had watched the household empty out in the morning, Tina leaving, the children going to school. He had entered through the garage. His plan, he wrote, was to burglarize the home, to take what he could, to leave before anyone returned. He chose the house because there were no close neighbors, because the door was often left open, because he had been watching long enough to know the patterns. He did not count on Tina and Stephanie coming back early. He did not count on being seen. He wrote, I was in a total state of shock. I wandered around the house, slowly coming to realization of what I'd done and how bad it was. Then, Sarah and Cody came home from school. What happened next is documented in the written confession. The specifics of it are not the point. The point is that by the time Matthew Hoffman drove away from Tina Herrmann's house that night, he was the only person who knew where 3 of the 4 missing people were. He drove to a gas station to collect cans from his own vehicle. He planned to burn the house down. The officer who stopped him near Tina's abandoned truck in the same hour in the same area let him go. He went home, he built a fire, he burned his shoes, he drank a bottle of wine. He had Sarah Maynard in his basement. And the next morning he went to Walmart. Just after midnight, he bought tarps. He bought heavy-duty trash bags. He paid for a turkey sandwich. He left a receipt in the bag. On November 18th, 8 days after the disappearances, Matthew Hoffman told investigators he would show them where to look. They drove through fields, into a wooded area. Other officers secured the perimeter, and then they found it, a beech tree. Old, wide, hollow, with an opening approximately 6 feet from the ground and a second opening near the branches. An officer looked inside the lower hole. Trash bags. Hidden inside the tree, the remains of Tina Herrmann, Cody Maynard, Stephanie Sprang, and Tanner the dog had been placed inside the hollow of that tree using a rigging and pulley system. Matthew Hoffman had worked as a tree trimmer. It is believed he had hollowed out that tree himself long before November 10th. That detail, the tree, the preparation, the rigging system, sits very uncomfortably against his claim that November 10th was an impulse, a burglar who panics, an unplanned catastrophe. The hollow tree suggests something else. The preparation suggests something else. The investigators left that question on the table. The jury would consider it. On January 6th, 2011, less than 2 months after Tina Herrmann failed to show up for work, Matthew Hoffman entered a guilty plea to 10 felony counts. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He will not leave. The leaf-filled house went into foreclosure. The beech tree where the bodies had been hidden was cut down. There is a specific question that runs underneath this case. Not the legal question, that was answered. The question that the interrogation rooms could not answer. Not fully. Was Matthew Hoffman a person who did something terrible on an ordinary November morning and then could not stop? Or was the ordinary November morning part of something that had been building for a long time? The hollow tree, the observation of Tina's house over multiple days, the Walmart receipt left in the bag, which could mean carelessness or could mean something else entirely. The investigators noted all of it. The forensic psychologists who testified noted all of it. None of it produced a clean answer. Tina Herrmann was 32 years old. She was reliable. She answered her texts. She did not miss work. Cody Maynard was 10 years old. Stephanie Sprang was 41. Sarah Maynard, who was 13, survived. She was found on a pile of leaves in a basement, asking if she was late for school. She was asking about her dog. She has had to carry the weight of that basement for the rest of her life. Valerie Hawthorne, who made the first call, who went back, who went inside, who found the blood, she saw it through. Ron Metcalf, who reported Stephanie missing, did everything right. The officer who stopped Matthew Hoffman the night of November 10th, near Tina's abandoned truck, had no way of knowing who he was talking to. He let him go. He could not have known. It is one of the details of this case that does not resolve into anything useful. It is just a moment. A man stopped by an officer, a question asked, an answer given, and a night that continued. Matthew Hoffman told investigators he didn't know why he collected leaves. Forensic psychologists testified that the leaf obsession appeared delusional, that bringing the outside world inside, accumulating it, surrounding himself with it, may have been the only way he knew to fill a space that otherwise stayed empty. The tree where the bodies were found was a hollow tree, something that looked solid from the outside, with nothing inside. He understood hollow things. He had been one for a long time,